everyone, here's Mahsa from coinIX. coinIX is a blockchain investment firm based in Hamburg, and we make it possible for everyone to have exposure to digital assets. The investment management industry has entered its third revolution through tokenization and the blockchain industry. Tokenization has always been an important part of our portfolio. We have not only invested in projects which are dedicated to tokenization, but we also have tokenized our liquid crypto fund, coinINVEST. TokenForge and FINEXITY are two projects in our portfolio which are focused on tokenization, and today I have the privilege of interviewing the CEO of FINEXITY. Paul, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for the invite, Masha. Lovely to be here.
So first of all, please introduce yourself and tell me, how did you end up in the blockchain industry? What is your story?
It's a long story, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I'm Paul. I was born in Germany, lived in the UK for 7 years, worked in Bangkok and Singapore for a German large conglomerate, mostly working on post-M&A. Then I moved back to Germany at the end of 2016. Was working as the assistant of the global chief controlling officer for the same company, mostly working on M&A deals. How did I get into blockchain? Very simple story. I was very fortunate that after the assistant role, I was able to co-found a global incubator for the company with one of my co-founders at FINEXITY. And out of the 14 companies that we invested in back in the day, 6 were already in the blockchain space. So we really try to understand the technology as much as we can through these 6 ventures that we invested in. And what we figured was that we believe that technology is always a means to an end. If you use it right, you can build a great brand reputation. However, you need to find the right mixture of blockchain, so heavy tech stuff, but also making your product as accessible as possible to the wider audience in order to be successful. So, having said that, FINEXITY in itself came to our minds in 2018 when we worked really deeply in the payment space and when we understood that blockchain can really make a massive impact by long-term decentralization on payment flows, making certain assets more accessible to a wider audience in the end. And that's pretty much what we do at FINEXITY as well. So if you were to describe FINEXITY in one sentence, we're building an exchange for private market investing. So with us, in comparison to a conventional exchange where you would trade stocks and bonds, with us you can trade private equity, you can trade real estate across various sectors. So we've got residential, we've got commercial, hospitality, healthcare, and so on. And then we also have done a lot of deals in the collectible space as well as infrastructure. So over the last, now it's been 5 years-ish that we've been live, and we facilitated over 230 different deals across these 4 asset classes, and that makes us one of the largest deal makers in our space globally.
How would you explain FINEXITY to your grandmother?
Wow, my grandmother. So she's 95, so I need to go back and make it really simple. With us, you have the opportunity to invest your money in assets that you've never been able to invest in before. So yes, for instance, if you're 95, you may get a call from your banking advisor. Let's take the example of a typical German from the savings bank. He's going to call, he's going to say, look, you've got 10K lying around in your current account. Don't you want to invest this? And what are they going to offer you? They're going to offer you maybe a portfolio of stocks and bonds and so on. However, the problem is that the assets that we focus on have been forever and up until today have only been really accessible to high net worth individuals. So with us, you now as a retail investor suddenly get the same chance to invest into these assets through our exchange-like infrastructure.
So FINEXITY makes it possible for everyone to invest in expensive assets without buying the whole asset through fractionalization. When was the first moment that the idea of FINEXITY was born? 2018.
I founded the company mid-2018. We were still working our old jobs back in the days. And then it was an interesting transition period because you still had your job to do, you were thinking about the idea, and it was also 2018. I mean, there was a massive hype around blockchain, around STOs. Then there was a massive hype around cryptocurrencies in general. And what we then said is, okay, look, this is an opportunity that we can either capitalize on or it's going to be missed. And I'm really glad that we did this because now, was it 7 years later, I think we're in a really good position where we've merged the traditional financial world, because everything that we do is regulated. So we are tokenizing securities, and everything that we did over the last 7 years has really been centered around merging the traditional financial world with the new financial world, but always trying to intersect it in a way where you keep to regulation and where you still make it accessible to people that come from the traditional financial world, because those are the ones that need to believe in you. Otherwise, it's really difficult to scale.
What problem is FINEXITY trying to solve?
As a key slogan at FINEXITY, we are driving opportunities in private markets. So we are creating the leading exchange for private market investing. When you create an exchange, you always have the supply and demand side. On the supply side, we work with issuers, so originators that are either asset managers, or they are funds, or they are developers, for instance, in the real estate space, and all of them have the same goal. They want to raise money as quickly, as efficiently as possible in order to then later on invest that money into certain assets, whatever it's written in their private placement memorandums or the terms and conditions that you invest in. With our exchange, we reduce the costs of in comparison to a conventional securitization by around 80%. So thanks to blockchain, we're cutting out a lot of intermediaries, and we've got a very standardized structuring process, which enables us to then thereby cut the 80%. So what we're solving here is the massive cost impact, making it more accessible for a lot of issuers to raise money more efficiently. On the other hand, on the demand side, you need investors. So what we do is that we work with both retail investors through our own investment brokerage solution, where we onboard investors, do KYC, AML, risk adequacy testing, and so on. And then based on their adequacy, we can then offer them certain products in their classification. Obviously, if you're a professional, you can invest into more products than a retail investor, given the law. However, we classify you and then we offer you certain products. So through our investment brokerage solution, we're solving the problem that you're getting access to assets that you've never had access to before. And that is then enabling you to build better portfolios. However, a lot of our growth actually also comes through our B2B2X channels, meaning that back in 2022, we started white labeling our infrastructure in a way that now we work with the savings bank, with the Volksbank, with a lot of other wealth managers that are utilizing our infrastructure that is connected to our exchange to then take these securities that have been issued by the issuer and broker them to their clients or buy them on behalf of their clients, if you're a wealth manager, for instance. And what problem are we solving here? We're solving the problem that these investors, or B2B, so banks as well as wealth managers, that we're giving them the access to opportunities that back in the days also didn't have the accessibility. So what are we solving in total? We're running like a traditional exchange, but we're cheaper, we're more efficient, we settle T+0, we don't have to wait for 48 hours like a normal settlement would take place, and we're giving thereby accessibility to asset classes that haven't been accessible before.
So FINEXITY is not only giving investors access to high yield and tradable private market investments, but it's also an efficient way for issuers to raise capital for their projects. Now, would you please mention some of the recent updates, partnerships, advancements of FINEXITY?
If you want to grow a company, you can either do this inorganically or organically. If you've listened carefully, obviously I come from the M&A side of things, and I really believe in inorganic growth. Why do I believe in this? Because I believe that sometimes it's quicker to scale if you find the right partner, either vertical or horizontal integration, that enables you to step into a sector or a field more quickly rather than having to build it up yourself, if they have a proven track record, for instance. So one of the most recent developments is, and this came out in the news yesterday, is that we've taken over a Swiss company. The Swiss entity has been in the blockchain tokenization space they're actually earlier than us. They issued the first regulated bond that was passported into various countries in 2018, Crowdly token, some of you may know them. So we've taken over the company through an increase in kind, capital increase in kind, meaning that their shareholders are now our shareholders, and we're running their company out of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, which enables us to get access to more investors, but also a lot of real estate opportunities in Switzerland in itself through the fund offering. There's one big development. And then also when you read the press releases, you will see that we really will focus on inorganic growth in the future. So I think there will maybe a few other targets that will come in the next couple of months. Another big one is that also we have expanded into the Middle East around 2.5 years ago. We've got some really solid partnerships. We're in the next couple of months we're going to launch our first 5 funds in the Middle East. Also focus on private market investing that will then act as an investor for the German securities or MiFID II securities. Other things that we're working on, partnerships in the space. So we believe in an open infrastructure because I believe that if you just create your own infrastructure and no one can really collaborate with you, it's difficult to scale again. That's why we're really working on opening our infrastructure as much as we can. So we've partnered with Cashlink, we've partnered with GFK. Those are crypto securities registers, and through them we're getting more access to issuers, and they're enabling their issuers to fundraise with our brokerage partners. So these I think are the 3 main things. So it's mostly for us, it's about expansion, M&A, and then also opening our infrastructure for more partners. So if you're working in the space, come talk to us and let's see what we can do together.
Can you name some of your competitors? What makes your project stand out?
There is a couple of companies. I think one of the most prominent ones is probably 360X. Also, props to them. I think they have a really good team. They've got a fantastic setup. Also on the regulatory side of things, they're pretty strong. So they are one competitor. Then the BaFin and then through the ESMA has just given 21X their DLT TSS license, which is a trading and settlement system license. So it's a proper MTF exchange setup, including the settlement systems, so clearing and settlement, post-trade services, which is ESMA regulated. So they were the first ones to receive this. Also, congratulations to them on this part. And I think those are probably the main ones from that perspective. So I think it's a very, very steeply growing market. I don't think it's a winner takes it all market, but I think it's a market where if you were to start today, you would have a massive problem because it's the cards have been chosen, and now it's really down to everyone to scale on their segment that they're working in. And I think that's also what separates us from the other ones is that we've always been focusing on a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down. What do I mean by this? When we started FINEXITY, it was solely focused on B2C. So issuing our own securities, brokering our own securities, and that's what we did from 2020 to 2022. From 2022 to 2025, we focused on B2B2X, so white labeling our infrastructure, increasing our awareness in the market by cooperating with, in particular, banks that are utilizing our white labeled infrastructure. And now we're in the 3rd stage where for us it's really about scaling, because now we've got a good base. We've got our own investors, we've got the banks, we've got the wealth managers, we've got prominent asset managers that are working with us, and now we just need to put it all together and scale rather than coming from, if I were to start today, I have to come top down, meaning I need to just get the license and then I have to find asset managers, banks, wealth managers, investors all at the same time. So I think this is a competitive edge that we've had over the last couple of years. That we were really early, and it has cost us a lot of money. But I think we're now in a good position to scale in the next couple of years.
As the last question, what is your message to the people who have not invested in the blockchain industry yet?
Blockchain is obviously a big word. What I would do is obviously I would get some exposure to cryptocurrencies. Also, you got to consider if you just get started, go for in my opinion, go for the main ones. This is not an advice, obviously, but go for the main ones because there will always be some sort of liquidity, stability. I mean, look at the stock market today. Okay, the last couple of days, or like the last 2 weeks, it's an absolute mess, and this can always happen to any sector. But I think if you want to have some sort of stability in your portfolio, go for the larger ones that provide good liquidity and stability. That's one thing. And then on the other hand side, also consider investing into tokenized assets, because if you had, let's take the example of $5,000 lying around, I would always say, if you need 3K, put this into put this into something liquid where you can liquidate any single day, and the other 2K, if you don't need them, the 40%, put this into a tokenized asset because you are winning from the perspective that you can diversify even by investing only 2K, whereas you would usually have to invest hundreds of thousands to get exposure to these asset classes. So that's how I would do it. And if you were to ask me, if you don't do it, I don't think it's very clever.
Thank you for all the detailed explanations. We are glad to have FINEXITY in our portfolio, and we're looking forward to all the future milestones that is going to be achieved by FINEXITY. And thank you for doing this interview with us.
Thank you very much, Mahsa.